Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Wiley and this is my Math Center presentation. This is a slideshow version of my actual project board that I will be going through later on. So to start, we will focus on topics. So the topics that will be addressed in these different activities as well as throughout the slideshow and project is addition of money, subtraction of money, counting money, as well as real world problems or real world implementation of these concepts. So the grade that we'll be specifically focusing on is first grade, and the NGSS Common Core standards that are being addressed are first grade focused and consist of the following: MP.5, use appropriate tools and strategies, 1.NBT.3, comparing two-digit numbers based on the meaning of the tens and one digits, recording the results of the comparison with the symbols dot or equals. And the last Common Core standard that will be addressed is 1.NBT.44-6, which is using place value understanding and properties of operations to add and subtract. So the next slide is activity 1, counting money. So students will be provided with practice money to use for this activity. You could either use plastic counting play coins, or you can do what I will be doing, using a counting coins worksheet, and you can have the students cut out the coins and use them for the assignments. So the worksheet that I put on the right side that the students will be using is provided by Teachers Pay Teachers. So as a class, we will count the pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. Of course, we will talk about place value, the value of the money. So, for example, if you have a quarter is worth 25 cents. If you have a dime, 10 cents. If you have 3 dimes, it would be worth 30 cents. So we would be going over concepts such as that. And then after that, we will have a conversation briefly about different times you could use money. For example, if you're getting a snack from a vending machine, or if you're buying an item from the store, or even buying something from a lemonade stand. Those are great examples to explain to your students while practicing counting money. And then the students will be working on their money counting worksheet, which is something that I created, demonstrated on the left side. So one example that I put on there is Arden has 1 quarter, 3 dimes, and 2 pennies. How much money does Arden have? Draw a picture. This is a great way to allow students to use their creativity, as well as demonstrating their understanding of the value of each item, right? Because if the students are drawing a quarter, they're going to do a little circle and write 25 cents on it, etc. So to conclude this activity, the exit ticket will be a little more simple. Students will get a slip of paper with a pre-written cost. I put, for an example, 67 cents, but for this video, I'm going to make it simple. The example will be 55 cents, right? They will then place the correct amount of coins on the table to show which coins will be used or what could equal that amount. So for my sake of 55 cents, right, you would use 2 quarters and a nickel. Or students could use 5 dimes and a nickel, 5 dimes and 5 pennies, whatever would get them the correct answer. So following to activity 2, adding money, students will be provided practice worksheet, which would be the shopping value as well as shopping math sheet. So the shopping value paper essentially just explains to students the prices, which I will guide students through as a class, right? Because we will discuss as a class how items cost money, and I will explain to them how to add up the prices. So I would go through the first example with students. So the first example says a gallon of milk plus chips, right? So a gallon of milk is $3.25 plus the bag of chips, which is 99 cents. Students, of course, will show their work on the side and they will get the answer $4.24. So as students complete that activity, we will then move on to our exit ticket. So I did include a image of what the exit ticket would look like. Of course, the exit ticket will not have all the answers on there. It would just have the carton of eggs plus a water, right? And then that would be all that they get, students would write underneath the price of each item because they will be allowed to use their value chart, and then they will show their work on the side of how they got their answer. So for my exit ticket, my carton of eggs cost $1.50 and my water bottle cost $1.25. I did 150 plus 125 to get the answer of 275, which would demonstrate that the student has the understanding of, the adding money. So once again, that exit ticket was created by me, and the value placement charts were provided by Teachers Pay Teachers. So on to activity 3, which will focus on subtracting money. This assignment will be a little more simple. Students will be provided a subtracting money chart with images of the money that they will be subtracting. So we will discuss as a class how we use money to pay for items once again, right? If you have a total amount, you will have to take away some money to pay the person what you owe. So the first example is already filled out, but this is due to the fact that I would go through that first example with students. So of course, it says 56 cents subtracting 13 cents gives you a total of 43 cents, and students will of course have to write a sentence in response. So a simple sentence I wrote out as an example will be, you will have 43 cents remaining, right? And then when students finish this worksheet, they will then focus on their exit ticket. So the exit ticket, of course, would only have the coins on there, once again, not the written out response. But of course, it also would not be as simple as this exit ticket. This is just a quick, brief one, so I could go through as a group. So my exit ticket has 4 quarters, right? So 4 quarters equal $1. I'm taking away 1 quarter, so minus 25 cents. $1 minus 25 equals 75 cents, or 3 quarters. And once again, both the worksheet and exit ticket was created by me. Now on to activity 4, real world or world problem example. Okay, so for this activity, students will use the skills they previously learned in the last activities, and they will apply them to real world examples. For this activity, we will set up a store classroom with toy food and of course a toy cash register. Students will practice being shoppers as well as the cashier, and will use their toy money to count and pay for their items. So this will, of course, let them use their adding and subtracting skills to figure out the amount of money that they will be spending if they are the shopper, right? And then the cashier will use other skills such as counting to make sure that they give the correct amount of money back to the shopper. So this is also going to use the value chart that we had previously from the other activity 2, which was from Teachers Pay Teachers, right? And so this will just help you use it in the store as different prices for the students, as also as a little cheat sheet for the cashier and shopper to remember how much items are. And then for our exit ticket, we will do the money matching worksheet, which just reminds students of their coin value and which one it would equal. So the first example is 5 cents, they would connect it to 5 cents, right? And so on and so forth. So now on to cross-curricular. This is going to start with activity 1, counting money. So a cross-curricular activity for the counting money would be art, and this is because when conducting the money counting worksheet, it requires the students to draw, and this connects that activity with the understanding of the value of money. So the second activity is adding money, and a cross-curricular activity for adding money would be social studies. So this activity addresses basic economic concepts such as buying items. This is due to the adding of prices to for the items, which is connecting the concept of buying at a store in this activity. So for activity 3, it will be subtracting money, and a cross-curricular activity for subtracting money would be language arts, and this is due to the fact that as students use sentences to respond to their questions, it connects with their subtracting money worksheet, right? Because they're explaining how they got their answer, which was one of these samples I used before, right? They had 50, let's say they have 50 cents, and you take away 10, I will have 40 cents remaining. So for the last activity, it was real world example. So a cross curricular activity for real world problems would focus more on science and engineering, and this is due to this activity has students creating a miniature store in the classroom. Students will implement and will have interactions with one another for buying and selling items, and this also helps build problem solving and real world examples in a real world setting. And for our final assignment and slide, it is assignment strategy. So the assignment rubric breakdown. This will address the mathematic based rubric with the it will be provided to the students. So this rubric will be based on the quality of work produced by this student, the engagement seen throughout the classroom, which would be the way that the students interact with the assignment, and the responses on the exit ticket. Students will receive extra assistance based on their grading from the rubric. So if one student seems like they understand the concept, they will get less guidance rather than a student that is struggling. So the math rubric on the side, as you can see, they're super excited. You did excellent. You have a clear understanding on all topics of this lesson. You shared great ideas regarding learning topics throughout the lesson. You answered the exit question correctly with no need of guidance. The next one is the smiley face. You did good. You understood most of the topics addressed in the lesson. You shared ideas regarding learning topics throughout the lesson, and you answered the exit ticket correctly with minimal guidance or assistance. Then we have our third emoji. It says, you almost had it. You understood half of the lesson being taught. You did not interact, right, with ideas regarding the topics throughout the lesson, and you answered the exit ticket incorrectly, or you needed a lot of guidance throughout the question. And the last one is you need practice, right? We'll practice together. So this assignment this assignment was hard for the student to follow, or they need extra practice, right? They may demonstrate that they don't really understand most of the concepts, and extra practice would help them. So the next point is you did not interact throughout the activity, or your interaction was incorrect, right? You didn't understand the concept, so you responded incorrectly. And then you were unable to respond to the exit ticket, or you needed complete guidance throughout the exit ticket because you didn't understand. So this is my math presentation.